The worst form of insult isn't hatred, it is indifference. When someone hates you, you still matter. Hatred is a passionate emotion. It means you are still a player in their mental game. But when someone ignores you, when they read your message and offer nothing but silence, they are broadcasting a much more terrifying and brutal signal to your subconscious. They are saying, you do not exist. Your presence or absence holds zero weight on the scale of my life. And this is precisely where most people break. This is the trap, an ancient trap that Machiavelli and Robert Greene have warned us about for centuries. Let me paint a picture for you so you understand exactly where you stand in this dynamic. Imagine a powerful king or queen sitting on their throne. A beggar enters the palace. The beggar screams, pleads, or even starts hurling insults. What does the king do? Does he rise from his throne to argue with the beggar? No, he doesn't even turn his head. The king continues his work. Right now, are you the beggar or are you the king? If you are constantly texting, if you are fighting with them in your head, if you are posting sad or passive-aggressive stories hoping they might see them, I am sorry to say this, but you are the beggar kneeling at the palace gates. And them? They are in the position of absolute power, because with a simple move, with silence, they have managed to hijack your entire nervous system. But do not panic. We are not here to weep over your beggar status. We are here to flip the board. Machiavelli said, "He who loses control of his emotions loses control of his kingdom." They think that by ignoring you, they have deleted you. But they don't realize that by doing so, they have given you time. Time for what? To strategize, to sharpen your blade. In the minutes ahead, we are going to descend into the darkest and most potent laws of psychology and Stoic philosophy. You are going to learn how to turn this being ignored into a ladder to reach a level of power that person cannot even conceive in their dreams. If you stay with me until the end of this path, you won't just make them regret it. You will reach a point where their regret sounds like nothing more than the buzzing of a fly.
What was your first reaction to being ignored? Let me guess. First, you were confused. You told yourself they were busy. You made excuses. After a few hours, anxiety kicked in. You started checking their online status. You saw they were online but not replying. And that is when you committed the fatal error. Effort. Sending another text, calling, or asking that pathetic question, "Why aren't you replying?" or "Did I do something wrong?" Listen closely. In the world of strategy, this is called hemorrhaging. When you are wounded, if you start flailing and running, your heart beats faster and you bleed out quicker. You are serving your vital life force to someone who doesn't even deserve your table scraps. Enter the first law, mirroring silence. This concept comes straight from the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius and the 16th law of power. The concept is simple, but for the weak it is impossible to execute. Reflect their behavior exactly like a mirror, nothing less, nothing more. Let's clarify this with a real-world scenario. Imagine you are a merchant negotiating a deal. You make an offer. The partner pulls back. If you chase them and say, "Please, let's make a deal, I'll give you a discount," what do they think? They think your product is trash. They think you are desperate. Your value in their mind goes into free fall. Now, back to your relationship. When they go silent, they have taken a step back. Your instinct is to take 2 steps forward to close the gap. This is chasing. But what is the strategic reaction? You take exactly 1 step back as well. They don't reply for 4 hours. You wait 4 hours or even longer when they finally do reply. Not out of childish spite. Pay attention. The difference between sulking and strategy lies in the intention. Sulking means, "I'm not replying so you know I'm mad," which means you are still obsessed. Mirroring silence means, "I'm not replying because your behavior has proven you are not my priority right now. I am busy building my empire." This delivers a massive psychological shock to the other party. Why? Because they were waiting for you to chase.
They had written the script in their head. I ignore them, they get anxious, they pursue me, and I feel important. When you go silent, when you vanish too, their script burns. Suddenly they think, wait a minute, why aren't they chasing? Is there someone else? Did they never matter to me? The roles of predator and prey switch. Before this, they were running from you. Now they stop and look over their shoulder. The power of mirroring silence is that it makes you unpredictable. Humans, especially those who play mind games, love predictable people. They're easy to control. But when you become a mirror, they see their own ugly reflection in your behavior. If they are cold, they receive frost. If they delay, they receive a waiting period. If they are absent, you are gone. Remember, in the physics of human relations, every action without a reaction is doomed. But your reaction must not be begging. Your reaction must be reflection. This is the first step to reclaiming respect. Until you stop the bleeding caused by your overeagerness, none of the following techniques will work on them. So, from this moment, put the phone down, start the timer, be the mirror, cold, polished, and ruthless.
Have you ever asked yourself, why? Why is being ignored by this specific person so agonizing? Why is it that when the cashier at the grocery store ignores you, your heart doesn't break? But when they leave you on red, you feel like your chest is being crushed in a vice? The answer lies hidden in the dark psychology of Carl Jung, and hearing it will not be comfortable. It is because you have become a host, and you have allowed a parasite to feed off your self-esteem. Let's be brutally honest. Your pain is not about losing that person. That person, in reality, is likely quite average, full of flaws and insecurities. Your pain exists because you have tied your entire sense of worth to their validation. You have given them the power to press a button and dictate your misery or your joy. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, had a concept called projection. We rarely fall in love with the actual person. We fall in love with the image we have constructed and projected onto their face. You have taken all your desires, your emotional needs, and the missing parts of your own soul, and you have projected them onto this person. That is why when they look away, you feel like you are disappearing. Let me tell you a hypothetical story so you grasp the depth of this tragedy. Imagine you are a master sculptor. You find a piece of dry, rotting driftwood on the side of the road. You bring it home. You spend hours carving it, polishing it, and then you coat it in your own pure gold. In the end, you have a beautiful golden idol. You start to worship this idol. And when the idol, which is actually just dry wood, doesn't look at you, you cry. Isn't that absurd? You are crying for your gold that you smeared onto that wood. The value did not belong to the wood. The value belonged to your art and your gold. The person ignoring you is that piece of driftwood. The status you think they have is actually the gold of your own soul that you lent them. The parasitic validation trap means you are waiting for a stick of wood to tell you that you are valuable. That will never happen. What is the exit strategy? You must cut off the parasite's food supply. You must realize they were just a projection screen. Every time you feel the urge to text them for attention, tell yourself, I am reclaiming my gold. Their validation is not your oxygen, it is sweet poison. Once you realize that without your gaze, they are just an ordinary person, the spell breaks. Power returns when you realize you are the light source, not them. They were just a mirror, and now the mirror is broken. So what? You are still the light. Now that you understand, you must not beg for your own value. You must learn how to act like an impregnable fortress against their cold behavior. This is where you shed your skin and enter the next phase.
Now that you know they are just a false idol, you must learn how to not even flinch when they attack you with silence again. This is where you become a student of Epictetus, the philosopher who began as a slave but possessed more power than emperors. The core tenet of Stoicism is this: we have no control over external events, but we have absolute control over our reaction. Being ignored is an external event. It is like the rain, like traffic, like a stray dog barking at a car. When a neighbor's dog barks, do you sit on the curb and cry, asking, "Why doesn't that dog love me?" No, you say that is a dog and its nature is to bark. The Stoic Indifference protocol means applying this exact lens to that person. Their silence is their choice. It has nothing to do with your worth. It is simply their current nature. Let's visualize a war scenario. Imagine you are a massive stone fortress in the middle of a stormy ocean. The waves, which represent their silence, their seen status without a reply, their coldness, are crashing violently against your walls. What does the fortress do? Does the fortress scream, "Hey wave, why are you hitting me? Why aren't you calm?" No, the fortress simply is. It stands, silent, unmovable. The wave hits, foams, shatters, and slides back into the sea. In your relationship, up until now, you have been the sandy shore, eroding and washing away with every wave. The Stoic protocol demands, become the granite cliff. When they leave you on red, do not say, "I am humiliated." Say, "The wave hit the rock." That's it. Attach no emotion to it. Do not interpret it. Do not write a story. It is a fact. They did not reply. Period. Do not get angry. Do not get sad. Be an observer. True indifference means the removal of emotional charge. If you get angry, you still care. If you block them out of spite, you still care. Stoic indifference means the presence or absence of their message causes zero change in your heart rate. This behavior drives the other person insane. Do you know why? Because they are used to being the center of your emotional universe. They are used to their behavior destroying your day. When they see that their silence has left not a single crack in your fortress walls, they panic. Their weapon of silence against your absolute indifference becomes blank ammunition. You have disarmed them. They pull the trigger, ignore you, but no bullet fires. You remain unbothered. Now you have become a solid fortress, but a static fortress can be boring. To win the game, you cannot just defend. You must learn how to occupy their mind without even being physically present. How? By becoming a ghost.
Up to this point, you have learned to hold your tongue and stand firm like a fortress. But defense is not enough. Now it is time to attack. Not a physical or verbal attack, but a silent psychological invasion. We call this phase invisible presence. Robert Greene writes in the 48 Laws of Power, use absence to increase respect and honor. But there's a nuance here. The art lies in being everywhere while being nowhere. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? Let me unpack it. When someone ignores you, their assumption is that you were sitting at home, depressed, staring at the wall. This image gives them power. They believe they were the sun in your solar system, and now that they have left, you are freezing in the dark. The invisible presence strategy is about shattering this image without saying a single word to them directly. You must become a ghost. A ghost cannot be touched, cannot be spoken to, yet its presence weighs heavy in the room. Let's visualize a modern scenario. Suppose they have ignored you. You, following the first law, have executed mirroring silence. You send nothing. 3 days pass. Their curiosity begins to itch. Why is it so quiet? Subconsciously, they pick up their phone to check on you, and boom, they see an image of you. Not a sad story with a heartbreak song, and not a passive-aggressive quote showing you were bitter. They see you in a new circle with high-status people, laughing with your entire soul. Or they see you achieving a major career milestone, or learning that new skill you once told them you didn't have time for. What happens in their brain? This is a subtle form of psychological torture. They see that not only are you not dying, You are thriving. They see that the train of your life is moving faster without the fuel of their attention. This is where jealousy and FOMO wake up. They think, wait, that smile used to be mine. Why are they giving it to strangers now? You are absent, meaning you don't text them, but you are present. You are marching through their mind. I have a case study from a client of mine. He was a young man whose fiancée left him and completely froze him out. He wanted to go to her house and scream. I stopped him. I told him, instead of screaming, go to the gym, build your physique, and let mutual friends simply see you. 3 months later, she saw him at a mutual friend's party. He didn't even say hello. He just walked past and laughed with others. That same night, she texted, "You've changed so much." Do you see? His physical presence in the past made him cheap, but his invisible, mysterious presence in those 3 months turned him into a puzzle. Remember, humans get bored of things they fully understand, but they're obsessed with puzzles they cannot solve. You are now the puzzle. Now that you have triggered their curiosity with this mysterious vibe, there's a 90% chance they will return. A text, a call, a breadcrumb. And this is exactly where 99% of people lose the game, because they think the war is over and they open the gates. But not you. You are going to execute the next technique.
Congratulations, they came back. A simple text like, "Hey, how are you?" or "Long time no see." Your heart races. Your brain, starving for dopamine, screams, "Reply, hurry up, don't let them leave again." This moment is the most dangerous moment of the battle. If you reply instantly, if you are available right now, the entire structure you have built crumbles to dust. Why? Because you prove that all that silence and invisible presence was just an act. You prove you were sitting behind the door the whole time waiting for them to knock. And the moment they realize you were waiting, your value skyrockets back down to zero. You become a free commodity. Here, we must apply a lesson from economics and Seneca, the law of supply and demand. Anything that is abundant is cheap. Even gold, if it rained from the sky, we would use it to pave our driveways. But why are diamonds expensive? Because they are scarce, because they are hard to obtain. Until now, you were a rock by the side of the road. Whenever they kicked, you were there. Now you must become the diamond. What is the artificial scarcity technique? It means that even if you have absolutely nothing to do and are lying on the couch, you have no right to be available immediately. Let me explain with a business analogy. Imagine you go to see a famous consultant. The receptionist says, "The doctor is free right now, walk right in." How do you feel? You think, is he no good? Why is his office empty? Now imagine the receptionist says, "I'm sorry, the doctor is booked for 3 weeks. Maybe I can squeeze you in for a 15-minute slot due to a cancellation." Now what? That 15 minutes becomes holy to you. You are willing to pay more just for that sliver of time. It is the same in relationships. When they text, my rule is this: wait at least double the time they made you wait. Not out of spite, be careful. Your tone must not be angry. Your tone must be occupied. If they write, "Hey," do not write, "Hey baby, where have you been? I missed you." You write, "Hey, wrapped up in something right now. I'll catch you later when I'm free." And then vanish for 5 hours, for a day. This scarcity drives them mad. They expected you to jump into their arms, but you told them, "You are not my priority. I have more important things to do." This forces them to work to get your time, and humans love what they have worked for. Remember, we do not appreciate what we get for free. We only fight for what we might lose. By executing this technique, you officially ascend from the rank of beggar to the rank of king. You dictate who, where, and how much access is granted. But wait, this power game has a massive internal enemy.
an enemy that lives inside your own head and can ruin everything, an enemy we call the lying mind reader. In the next section, we are going to face this inner monster.
Your greatest enemy right now is not the person out there ignoring your texts. Your greatest enemy sits between your own two ears. Seneca, the great Stoic sage, carved a sentence that should be burned into your wall. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The core problem of being ignored isn't the act of silence itself. The problem is that the human brain despises ambiguity. Our brain is a storytelling machine. When we lack information, when they don't reply, the brain starts filling the empty void with the worst, most terrifying scenarios possible. Let's walk through a psychological case study. Let's call it the 3 a.m. scenario. It is 3 a.m. You see they were online, but your message remains unopened. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Their silence is a simple fact, but what is your mind doing? Your mind starts whispering, "They're definitely talking to someone else, someone better looking. They're laughing at my texts together. I have lost my charm. Did that joke I made 2 days ago offend them?" And this spirals until dawn. You are directing a horror movie in your head where you play the victim, the writer, and the audience all at once. What is the result? The next morning, your psychological battery is at 0%. When they finally do reply, perhaps for a stupid reason like they overslept or were working, you attack them with a loaded gun of anxiety, resentment, and neediness. Your behavior becomes erratic, your tone becomes bitter, or you become overly clingy just to reassure yourself. And it is this hysterical behavior that actually drives them away. Do you see? You turned a fantasy into reality with your own hands. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. What is the solution? You must pill the mind reader. When they are silent, tell yourself, "I do not know where they are or what they are doing, and because I do not know, I have no right to write a story." The Machiavellian rule here is, look only at the evidence, never at the hallucinations. The evidence says they have not replied. That's it. Maybe they died. Maybe they dropped their phone in the toilet. Maybe they're with someone else. Until you see it, do not suffer for it. Suffering for something that hasn't happened yet is absolute stupidity. You must stop the rumination. Every time your brain starts writing a tragedy, shout a mental command. Cut! That scene is not in my script. When you stop this mental hemorrhaging, a strange thing happens. A massive amount of energy that was being wasted on fear and worry is suddenly released. This energy is raw, it is wild, it is a cold rage. Now the question is, what do we do with all this free energy? This is where we enter the alchemy of the soul, where pain is transmuted into power.
Nietzsche, the philosopher who philosophized with a hammer, gave us a concept that is terrifyingly beautiful. Amor Fati. It means love of fate. Not just bearing your fate, but loving it. Even the painful parts, especially the painful parts. You might ask, why should I love being ignored? It hurts. Exactly. Pain is fuel. Most people, when rejected or ignored, turn that pain into depression and self-pity. They sit in the dark and weep. This is a waste of the purest form of nuclear energy. But what does the shadow strategist do? He uses the process of sublimation. Let me give you a brutal, real-world example. I knew a man whose fiancée left him right before the wedding without explanation for a wealthier man. Did that man crumble? No. He got angry. But he didn't take his anger to the streets to scream. He didn't drown his anger in alcohol. He poured that molten rage into the engine of his business. Every time he felt tired, he remembered the humiliation and he worked another hour. Every time he wanted to quit, he remembered her silence and he pushed harder. 3 years later, that man was an industry titan. When he saw that girl again, who was now full of regret, he felt nothing, no love, no hate, because she was just a step on the ladder he used to climb up. Amor Fati means accepting that this rejection, this disrespect, is the best thing that could have happened to you. Why? Because by stepping back, they created a vacuum that forced you to grow. If they were constantly showering you with affection, you would have remained stagnant. By ignoring you, they lit a fire under your feet. Now the choice is yours. Do you want to burn and turn to ash, or do you want to rise out of the fire like a phoenix? So from this moment on, instead of saying, "I wish they would reply," say, "Thank you for not replying. Thank you for showing me that I need to focus on myself." This perspective makes you invincible. No one can hurt you with silence anymore, because their silence becomes your jet fuel. You feed on the pain. You build empires out of disrespect. This is the highest level of power, where your enemy, by striking you, only makes you stronger. Now you are full of energy, your mind is calm, and you are growing. But there is one final trap remaining, a trap buried in the past that catches many winners right before the finish line.
Have you ever watched a gambler lose their entire life savings? They walk into the casino, lose $1,000. Common sense says, walk away before you lose more. But they don't leave. Why? Because their brain is stuck in an ancient trap. They tell themselves, I am down 1,000. If I leave now, that money is gone forever. I must stay. I must play. I must win it back. And the result? They lose their house, their car, and their sanity chasing that first $1,000. In relationships, this trap is called the sunk cost fallacy. This is the exact reason you are still thrashing around in a dynamic where you are ignored, disrespected, and tortured. You tell yourself, we were together for 3 years. I bought them gifts. I told them my deepest secrets. If I walk away now, it means I threw those 3 years in the trash. Let me slap you with a brutal truth. Those 3 years are already in the trash. That time is never coming back. Whether you stay or leave, that cost is paid and burned. But here's the difference. If you stay, you are throwing your future into the same dumpster where you threw your past. Visualize a medical emergency. A climber gets their arm trapped under a massive boulder. There is no way to free the arm. Gangrene is setting in. The infection is entering the bloodstream and will soon reach the heart and kill them. This climber has 2 choices. 1, stare at the arm, cry, and say, I love this arm, I've had it for 30 years, and wait to die. 2, take out a knife, endure the horrific pain of amputation, and live. The relationship where you are ignored is that gangrenous arm. Those good memories, the honeymoon phase, those old I love you texts, they don't exist anymore. They are dead tissue. Staying and texting in the hopes that those days return is like trying to perform CPR on a corpse. You will only exhaust yourself and catch the stench of death. What does the shadow strategist say here? He says, pick up the scalpel. You must accept that the investment has failed. In the stock market, a smart investor sells a crashing stock immediately to stop the bleeding. The fool holds on to it until it hits 0. Cut your losses right now. That time, that energy, those emotions, they are gone. Let them go. You still have you. You still have the future. Do not let the heavy shadow of the past block the sunlight of your future. And speaking of sunlight, the final phase is exactly where you become the sun and they become nothing.
We have arrived at the final stage, the ultimate level of power, the place where you no longer play games, you no longer strategize, and you don't even try to teach them a lesson. This is where you ascend to the status of Diogenes. Diogenes the Cynic was a philosopher who lived in a ceramic jar and owned nothing, yet he was freer than any man alive.
One day, Alexander the Great, the most powerful conqueror on earth, stood over him and asked, "I am Alexander. Ask of me anything you desire. Wealth, status, power?" Diogenes didn't even move. He simply looked up and said, "I have one wish. Move aside. You are blocking my sunlight." Do you understand the gravity of this? To Diogenes, Alexander the Great, with all his armies and glory, was nothing more than a physical obstacle blocking the light. He wasn't a king, he wasn't important, he was just a nuisance. Radical deletion means reaching this state regarding the person ignoring you. This is different from blocking out of anger. When you block someone because you are furious, it means they still matter. It means you are blocking them to punish them. Radical deletion means they have become so insignificant to you that you don't even spend the energy to block them. Their name is in your contacts, but like the number of a pizza delivery place or a spam caller, it triggers absolutely zero emotion in you. Let me paint the final image for you. 6 months have passed. You have worked on yourself, law of Amor Fati. You are no longer that needy person. One day, a notification pops up on your screen. You see their name. Your heart doesn't skip a beat. Your palms don't sweat. You don't get angry. You just look at it and say, "Oh, they're still alive?" And then, maybe you reply, maybe you don't. But whatever you do, it comes from a place of absolute indifference. If you reply, it is like replying to a stranger. If you don't, it's because you genuinely forgot, not because of a strategy. This is the greatest revenge in history, the realization that they can no longer hurt you, that your control buttons no longer work. They ignored you to make you feel small, but you used that silence to grow so big that they no longer fit in your frame. You are no longer looking to make them regret it, because their regret or their happiness has no impact on your existence. You have broken out of the prison of validation. You are the king of your own land, and in your land, someone who disrespects the king is not executed. They are simply rendered invisible forever. Now that we have reached the mountain peak and breathed the fresh air, it is time to look back at the path one last time and close the case.
Well, the game is over. Look at your hands. 30 minutes ago, these hands were shaking, waiting for a pathetic ding from a phone screen. But now you are armed with an arsenal used by the greatest strategists in history. We learned from Jung that this person was merely a mirror for your own inner complexes. We learned from the Stoics to stand like a cliff against the waves of indifference. And we learned from Machiavelli how to reclaim power through scarcity and ambiguity. Let me remind you one last time, this entire path, all these maps and laws, it was never about them. That person with their cold behavior, with their silence, they actually did you the greatest favor of your life. They pushed you into the darkness, forcing you to learn how to generate your own light. If they had always been kind, you would have remained a beggar for affection forever. But now you have transformed into the chooser. From today on, when someone ignores you, you will not curl up in sadness, you will simply smirk. Because you know they are walking right into a game that you designed. You are no longer the victim. You are the hunter who has learned that sometimes the best way to hunt is to sit still and do nothing. But listen, human memory is weak and emotions will attack again. You might wake up tomorrow and feel your heart waver. To ensure you do not drop your weapon in this psychological war, I have summarized this entire 30-minute strategy into a single war map, a mind map, a one-page cheat sheet that belongs on your wall or your phone wallpaper. I have left the link to my Telegram channel in the description. Go there right now, download that file, and look at it every morning. Do not let forgetfulness enslave you to your emotions again. Now it is your turn. It is time for a confession. True power begins with ruthless honesty towards oneself. Go to the comments right now and write to me, which of these 9 traps were you stuck in? Were you caught in the mind-reading trap, writing fictions in your head? Or were you stuck in parasitic validation? Have the courage to write it down. Confessing a weakness is the first step to killing it. I will read every single comment to see who has truly decided to step out of the shadow. And remember, in the brutal theater of life, if you do not write your own role, others will hire you as an extra, and they won't even pay you. Pick up the pen and write your own story.